Hey there everybody, I'm excited to be able to come back to you all again, returning to that message that we originally started this with, talking about sustainability. It's been quite a long time since that first video. We've gone all the way around the sun. Here in our house we've gone through a massive amount of Cheerios, and even more with the kids growing up, and even some changes going on with the Home Pi system, because of the way that one of our providers of IoT devices is changing some of their APIs around. We had to shift one of our data sources for our internal weather data, actually start pulling data from our exterior weather station and adding a brand new sensor inside. But for those of you who are concerned, don't worry, we've got real-time data coming in. We still have that continuous history. The Home Pi system is churning along just fine. But as changes have happened over this year, we started to think about what other kind of changes we can make in our lives. And in a bunch of different ways, of course, and a bunch of different themes. But around the time of the new year, we were thinking about, is there anything that we can do different, especially now that we've had this Home Pi system that's been a lot of fun, anything that we can do differently when it comes to our efforts to be more green, more sustainable in the way that we just live day to day. And how can we harness the fact that this amazing platform is on 24/7, 365, and that gives us data about every single aspect of our behavior in this house. How can we harness that to make incremental changes in our everyday living that can really start to add up a lot? One of the first things we thought of is taking a look at electricity. Since we've got some really good information on that's coming in real time, how can we use some of that data? Now, of course, cutting down our electricity usage can have general benefits to the rest of the grid. Yes, we know that a lot of the energy here where we happen to live is fairly sustainably generated, but in the big scheme of things, that's not always true, and there are other sources. And then, of course, it's not just about cutting down the amount of electricity that we're using. We do know that there are grid assets that care a lot if people generally were to use a little bit less electricity or to be a little more mindful about their usage. And of course in day-to-day life, but especially when incidents happen that can really provide undue stress on the grid, living a more sustainable lifestyle when it comes to electricity consumption can have benefits not just for us and our own bottom line, but also for the rest of the folks who live on this grid. So what I did was I started looking at some of the data that's coming from the Home Pi system, historical values, current values, our future predictions in Pi Vision, and I started thinking about assets and pieces of equipment. And here where my office is, it's nearby our master bathroom where the shower is. And I was thinking about, okay, well, the shower, and I started thinking about the vent fan in the ceiling. And we actually have a couple different vent fans, not just in the shower, of course, but all over our house. And I was curious at it, and I was like, well, these are things that definitely can be left on or not always used very economically. These would be things that would be great if we could fully automate them, but I was just curious about whether there's any incremental steps we could take to be more mindful of their electricity usage. And so, of course, we have the Home Pi system that's monitoring all of these. At our house, we have our electrical breaker box, and there's some clamp-on current transducers that are measuring real-time electrical data through a little Wi-Fi electricity monitor to the Home Pi system. That's sitting on a laptop in the entertainment center. It's got the data archive, gathering the data. Asset framework is organizing all the data from my house, letting me do calculations and asset analytics. You've seen in previous videos my event frames letting me know about different water statuses and notifications. And in this case, I was using Pi Vision, tapping into it on my laptop and on my phone, and I'm thinking, okay, how can I use this infrastructure that I've got to address my electricity usage when it comes to these fans? So I started taking a look and doing some tests and turning them on, turning them off, and of course, the magic of real-time data is that we can use this for direct measurements. And I'll save you the details, but I ended up running back and forth and monitoring things on my phone. And what we're able to isolate is that when all three of these fans are on, which can happen around bath time when everyone's taking a bath and showers, we go through about 0.12 kilowatts of demand when everything is activated. And so I did some quick back-of-the-envelope math. I opened up Pi Vision, same tool I was looking at, and just started doing some calculator-style calculations. Like, okay, for at 0.12 kilowatts, if this is for about half an hour per day, if the average electrical price here in Austin is about 12 cents per kilowatt hour, times $365 days a year, what would be my savings if I reduce things by half an hour per day of all this? Ends up being about $2.63 or so. So yes, we're making an impact. From a bottom line standpoint, though, I'm like, okay, maybe not as much. But the interesting thing is we are making a tangible impact. I was able to use the real-time data to isolate a case where, it looks like there's a spike. I can use my vision, do some quick math, and figure out what the impact of that is. However, one of the great things about Pi is that we're connected to a massive amount of different data sources from different makes and models. So I said, okay, let's dream big here. Let's not think about just the ceiling fans. How can I apply this approach to other assets? And the great things is about using the same infrastructure, recycling that kind of math doesn't take hours or days. You just do this in just a handful of seconds or minutes. So I said, okay, let's go for low-hanging fruit. Like, what are other things out there where I can reuse the same analysis without having to restart my whole project about investigating electricity? And you can maybe even hear it right now, but I thought, what about the motors used by my air conditioning and heating system? Those things are massive, and those kick on in the winter and the summer, like all different times. I mean, you can even see sometimes the lights flicker depending on how much demand's in the house. So I said, great, our system's monitoring that, and we even have some extra data here too. Let's take a look at this. This was really exciting because I'm combining data from different sources. I'm combining data from the current transducers with information from the controller that's letting me see in purple from the current transducers how much I'm using. But then in blue, you can see the signal, which is slightly delayed, of what the current state is of my HVAC. So I can very easily isolate, okay, this is when it's on, this is when it's off. And I can see that these things use 2.5 kilowatts, like when they kick on. So this is double and another order of magnitude more than those vent fans. So I'm going to make a big impact here. Plus, these things run way more. So I was excited. I opened up my vision. Again, I started just using it as a calculator, just saying, okay, if each of things uses 2.5 kilowatts, what if I was to save a quarter hour, 15 minutes per day? Given that I'm paying 12 cents per kilowatt hour, and I would do this 365 days of the year, what would be my savings? Around $27.38 per year. This is starting to actually pay, since I've modified my house a good deal, I know this is starting to actually pay for the addition of a new IoT module for doing control, for controlling electrical circuits, one of those automated on-off timers. So here, not only would I be saving electricity, but I'd directly be rolling something back into my line, into my bottom line, that could let me add new equipment infrastructure for adjusting my electrical behavior. Like, this is great. But this is just even like one quick calculation of like, okay, this was assuming I did this a quarter hour per day. Again, building off some of the examples that we've seen our thousands of customer stories present, how can I use the real-time data tools available to me to do one further step of analysis? Again, treating this as if there was an enterprise scale issue. So knowing that I've got a lot of data, I said, okay, let me look at a much larger swath, about, 8 hours. Let me back it up even more and start looking at preparing a data set in AF, to gather both the fan data and the electrical data and do a much more in-depth calculation where I say, okay, now let's actually do a time eq calculation. And now here we're actually using Pi Vision to compute like real-time analytics, streaming analytics. I'm saying, okay, take my current state of my HVAC. Now, between 24 hours ago, star minus 1 day, and star, for what duration was it of a value of cooling? And divide that by 60, divide by 60. And what this is doing is this basically saying how many hours during each day is my HVAC's value, is it equal to cooling? Like, give me the duration, and compute this once a day. So I just set this up to run on the fly in Vision with my web browser with just a handful of clicks. And now I'm arriving at 8.8 hours per day. And this is in the month of August that it was on. So now if we think, wait a second, like, this is a massive amount of time when I can apply that same analysis, saving just maybe 1 fan cycle, 2 fan cycles, and achieve a massive impact. So, like, what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, yes, I was able to start at something that maybe wasn't as impactful, those vent fans, but I was able to repeat that analysis really quickly and zone in on a much better target use case for actually changing my behavior. Not only am I doing a little bit of data science, exploring the values in real time, but I'm also using this to be more mindful about spending my time, my hours in my day to target an asset that's really going to make a big difference for me. And then, of course, it's going to make a big difference, both in terms of savings, and then at the end of the day, though, line up with that goal that was the motivation for all of this, that idea of trying to be more sustainable in our everyday living. And the exciting thing about all this, of course, is that's something that is amazingly more straightforward, because we at AVEVA have provided an amazing tool, an amazing real-time data infrastructure in the Pi system for directly going after that goal. And even building on top of this for sharing this data, for instance, with other individuals who might have their own insights to apply to this data via something like AVEVA Data Hub. In short, I've barely scratched the surface of what I can do with this data, but already with this short little exploration, I've really inspired myself to say, okay, how can I use this tool for more use cases to achieve even greater savings? And that's what's really fun about working here, that not only do I have access to this amazing platform for making changes in my own life, but I'm able to draw on all those thousands of stories from our other users out there who are doing the same thing and achieving amazing things out there in the world. It's really a thrill, and at the end of this, it's really exciting to know that these folks, these lovely little kids, are growing up in a house where not only are we using Pi to safeguard the environment and provide alerts over the real-time status of the environmental conditions, where they sleep in, where they play in, but we're also using that exact same Pi system to truly try to change our behavior. We'll be a little bit more sustainable and make a difference in the world that they're going to grow up in.